What is leadership for you?
That's a great question. So for me, leadership is the skills to inspire, empower, encourage, uplift, and challenge individuals such that they will grow. And this growth will last. If you're a great leader, this growth will last even in your absence.
Mhm.
So what you're doing, that change that you create, is not just on the surface. If you're a great leader, the change that you create is deeply rooted from the inside, that they feel better as a person, that they believe in themselves more, that they truly want to make changes in this world because they want to make this change. It's not like you force it upon them, because that's the key difference between someone who's just, say, managing, right, versus someone who's leading. It's
True.
not come from a dictatorship sort of perspective, but rather you ignited something that is inside of them, that they feel better, they believe in themselves, and
Yeah.
they want to grow and make this impact that they try to make in this world. So that is why I believe leadership is so fundamental in everything, not just in the corporate world, not just in the business world or in the community, but also as an individual ourselves. How can we lead ourselves better? Because let's face it, sometimes we say changing the world, right? A lot of people say changing the world,
Mhm.
but how do you change the world? It actually comes back down to being able to lead yourself first. If you're focusing on leading yourself first, then you can influence the people around you. And in fact, that influence will continue to spread on like a fire. So that is my leadership. That is my definition of leadership. It's how you create that change inside of someone else, and that they become a better person, a better version of themselves, and continue on in your absence.
What would you say would be the top three problems that they normally face?
Yeah, the top three problems that I normally see is, number one, the lack of strategy. Is if they don't know where they're going, then what is the next step? They don't have that clarity of the strategy. Then
Mhm.
how can they lead the company and the corporation and the team towards the direction?
Mhm.
So needing to have that clarity, the vision and the clarity and the strategy is number one, right? That's
Mhm.
number one. The number two thing is the execution. So when it comes to having a strategy, then how do you make that into a reality? How do you, that doing, the actual doing, the actions? What are the sort of actions that you take to execute to make things happen? So that it would include, what kind of systems you put in place, what kind
Mhm.
of best practices do you have, what kind of guideline, processes, your SOP, standard operating procedures, right? How do you scale your business when it comes point? So all of these things is part of execution, the day-to-day and everything else, that's the execution, which makes, from a dream to the reality is execution. And of course
Mhm.
the people involved, because we all know it's not easy to manage people sometimes. So number three, that's why I said strategy, execution, but then it's the people, because the truth is we don't build business, we build people to build our business, right? So
True.
managing people is the third most common problems corporations and companies have. And that would involve, how do you hire the right people? How do you get rid of the wrong people? How do you onboard your employees? How do you instill that culture, you know, the guideline, so that when they come on board, they get to know what the culture is? Because having all the strategies, all this is great, but you cannot micromanage, right? Like we said earlier, you need to have that culture. The culture is a framework. If they understand the company culture, then they can make decision based on, okay, I'm part of this corporation, I'm part of this company. What sort of things this company of this culture would want to do, and which sort of things that you don't want to do, right? So the culture is very important when it comes to managing people, not just the micromanaging, more importantly, the culture. And how do you train people and groom people to help them to get in a company and continue to grow with the company? Because we all know human capital can be expensive. If you have to always hire and train people from scratch, that's a lot of resources. So you really want to make sure that people are happy in the surrounding, and continue to feel the fulfillment and continue to feel the growth. So that's managing people. That is why I think the three most important top problems is, the lack of strategy, the execution, and the managing of people. Yep. So those are the three main things.
What are the important leadership capabilities or skills, um, or skills that leaders must have in the next normal to be able to continue to lead effectively?
I think for me, right, the number one most important thing to have
Mhm.
is actually to continue to grow your mind. It's the ability to expand your context. Because let's face it, we can talk about training skills, we can talk about capability all day long, but it is sort of like if you have a cup. The skill sets and the training and the skill set and the capability is like water you're trying to pour into a cup. But how much water that you can actually hold depend on how big of a cup you have. So
Exactly.
in order for you to really absorb more of the skill sets, be more relevant, learn all these things, you have to have a bigger cup. You have to expand the context of your mind, your brain. Tony Robbins always said, is 20% about the skill sets, but 80% of your mindset. So as much as we train ourselves on our capability, our skills and knowledge, all these things, what to do, it is more important that we train our mindset. They always said the best leaders, we don't just have a to-do list. Everybody has a to-do list. But the great leaders have a to-be list. Who do you want to become? Who are you growing to become? Because if you become that bigger person, that better person, then you can lead better and you see better. And that is how you can have the real impact for your team and your organization. So the number one most important thing is actually work on your mind. There are trainings, of course, to work on your mind, but that is the most important. It is, like I said, the context, the to-be list rather than the to-do list. And when that is growing, everything else becomes easy because you just literally have this bigger cup. You can pour water inside. You can pour whatever skills and capability you want to learn inside, right? If you have that coupled with eagerness to continue to learn, then I think you're at a very good place.